So, as much as I disliked receiving an email telling me that I was a crypto scamming pornographer hate speech person, at the end of the day, I just kind of have to laugh because it doesn't really matter. Welcome to the QBC podcast, where we explore exciting new paradigms that have a meaningful impact on our day-to-day lives. I'm your host, Meredith Oke. Let's keep the conversation going. Join us in our free community by visiting qbcpod.com. That's qbcpod.com. And let's see where the quantum superhighway takes us next. Welcome to the QBC podcast. This is your host, Meredith Oke. And today, I have no guest. It's just me, people. I hope you're excited. The reason I'm doing this is because we had a unexpected development happen last week, and it has prompted me to do a lot of reflection on corporate control, censorship, what we're even doing here all together, learning this new science and thinking about different ways to approach ourselves, the world, the universe, the multiverse, all of it. And I wanted to talk to you directly about it because there's a lot going on. We are rolling towards the last little bit of 2025 as I speak. And the energy intensity has ratcheted up, and we're all, moving through it in various ways and facing various challenges. And I think there are moments where a lot of energy gets kicked up and a lot of pushback gets kicked up. And we face real choice points of how we want to move forward, probably by our soul's design. I don't know. What I do know is that last week, completely out of the blue, with zero warning, our YouTube channel was deleted. I can't even log into the dashboard on the back end. I get a 404 error message. It is completely gone. I got an email from YouTube telling me their policy for canceling channels and that they never ever cancel channels without repeated warnings to let the creator know that they're in trouble. Well, no one's ever accused me of being on top of my inbox, so I thought, okay, I must have missed the warnings. And not totally unsurprising, I did an entire episode on how statins are mitochondrial poison. I thought perhaps I would hear from someone at some point about something. So I went and checked my email, and I had not received a single thing from them. The last email that I got was just a very friendly, hey, creator, here are your analytics for the past month. There was nowhere in my inbox was there any warning that I was in any way violating their guidelines. However, according to this email, I had violated the guidelines so badly that I deserved immediate deletion without warning. So they said, this only happens if you've done something really, 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 really bad. Otherwise, you get warnings. We promise. So here's the link to our community guidelines. You can go and check what you did wrong. And if you think nothing, you can appeal. So I went to review the community guidelines, and the things that get you deleted without warning were things like financial scamming, like stealing people's money, pornography, and hate speech. So I feel pretty confident that I have in no way done anything in those areas. So I filled out the appeal and I sent it in, and that's it. That's all you get. You get a little box with an 800 character max to explain why you are not, in fact, a crypto scammer, pornographer, hate speecher. So, was this just a random mistake? Maybe. Did this happen in the same week that certain members of the US government were being raked over the coals for pushing back against the establishment and against the embedded medical processes that are largely controlled by pharmaceutical algorithms? Did this happen in a week where I noticed a very big uptake in trolls and bots mocking and challenging people who wanted to talk about mitochondrial health? Yes, it did. So what do I think happened? I don't know. My best guess is that Google, who owns YouTube, So we're talking about a enormous corporation here, right? Like Google has virtually no competition and it had virtually unlimited funds and unlimited customers across the entire internet in every capacity. So they're not highly incentivized to really give a shit about independent people and what happens to us and the impacts of their choices. They are highly incentivized to follow whatever seems to be the guidelines for the messaging that week. And what I think happened is that they really tightened their parameters around, I don't know, maybe certain keywords, maybe certain phrases, certain topics, certain subjects. And I got caught in that. And it resulted in them taking down the account. So who knows? What I do know is that YouTube has now shown me who they really are, and I will not be returning to that channel, even if my appeal is successful and my channel is reinstated. I might leave it up. I might keep posting to it, but I will in no way share that link or promote anything or spend any time trying to grow on YouTube. It's just not worth it. And it's also a really good reminder to all of you, if there are accounts or people who you follow on YouTube or any of the major platforms, and you have come to really trust them and like to hear from them, make sure you are opted into their email list or you have joined their private community. To do those things with us, go to qbcpod.com. If you're not at least on the email list, ideally inside the private social space that we have that has no censorship and we can say what we want, make sure you do those things. I think podcasting is pretty safe, but we're in a wild time, folks. You just never know. But it has prompted me to look at the landscape a little bit and to think about, what are we doing here and why are we doing it? And I have felt compelled, obviously, for years to share the message of quantum biology and what does that even mean? Like, what are we talking about here? And we're talking about a new paradigm of science that covers a very wide spectrum. So on the one hand, you have quantum biologists who are working in labs and who are very much in line with the material scientists that currently exist. And they see their piece of the quantum biology spectrum as purely a scientific endeavor, and they treat it like that. And it's almost in a way compartmentalized away from all of the weirdness that quantum physics brings to the table. In the same way that, developing quantum computers or developing the atomic bomb all relied on quantum physics, but expressed in a completely materialist way. And that's a totally valid expression of quantum biology. But because we're talking about quantum physics here, and now we're talking about quantum physics integrating into living systems, what we're really talking about is a bridge from material science into every crazy woo thing that exists. Non-local consciousness, energy, all of that was always dismissed by scientific materialists because they could find no, mechanistic basis for it. Within their framework, it couldn't happen. But now there is a framework. And I've been reading recently work by people who were trained in the material sciences and then came to have experiences that showed them how limited that perspective is and how the world actually isn't material. That's just one piece of it. And a lot of them had a period of time where they went through what they described as like spinning out. And the spinning out occurred because, and this is the phrase that gets used a lot, they say something like, I had no framework with which to process this information or this experience, right? So it could be a neuroscientist who had a near-death experience. And he's like, I know that happened to me, but I have no way to explain it. And you kind of spin out. I heard it from some of the people who worked on the telepathy tapes. I heard it from another book that I'm reading, a young woman I hope to have on the pod soon, who, went down the rabbit hole of a lot of esoteric research and realized that her entire worldview was wrong and everything she'd been taught was incomplete at best. And she had a period of a complete and total meltdown, dark night of the soul, because, as she said, I had no framework to process this. I think the underlying promise of quantum biology is, and applied quantum biology, which is translating the science into practical everyday use, is as a stabilizing framework so that we don't have to go through that period of fractured consciousness that happens when we are confronted with information that we have no way to make sense of. Quantum biology gives us a framework, even if we only understand it at a very high level, even if we only understand it in a very general way, even if we only have a vague idea, yeah, we're filled with mitochondria, and that mitochondria is communicating with our environment on an energetic level all of the time. And that's why sunlight matters so much and darkness matters so much. And non-native EMFs can cause such health problems. And even if we don't even dug into the science and we can't explain the exact mechanism why those things are true, and if we just expose ourselves to the type of content on this podcast and lots of other places and lots of other podcasts, and have that start to seep into the consciousness as a general understanding, when we're confronted with stuff way, way crazier than just, hey, sunlight controls every biological process in your body, when we're confronted with that new information, which I think is coming, there's some crazy stuff coming, we're going to have a way to make sense of it. We're going to be the person that can help our neighbor or a friend make sense of it, because we may be entering a phase of spin out. There's already such a schism happening. And it really, really hit home for me when I was watching the coverage of what's happening in health politics in the United States, that there's an incredible schism. And on the one hand, you have people who are trying really hard to get at some version of the truth and expand our idea of how we understand ourselves and our world. And on the other hand, you have people who are hell-bent on stopping it, and they do not care what the facts are, and they do not care what the research says, and they do not care what is true. They just care about controlling the narrative in order to keep their agenda on track. And controlling the narrative is just a materialist way of saying controlling the collective subconscious. So, what's my point here? If we have this schism happening and this relentless push to stop the natural growth of our understanding of ourselves and the world and our place in it and our place in the cosmos, and develop a almost cosmology of biology as opposed to just a mechanistic view of it. If people are trying so hard to stop that natural expansion of understanding, it creates this false idea that we're at odds with each other, when really we're not. And you could try to control the collective unconscious, but you can't. So even if they succeed in dominating every headline, which is the goal, right? Take the panel, this is how this works. So there was a panel filled with politicians who demanded the presence of a person who is trying to create change within health and human services in the United States. If you listen to this podcast, you all know I never say the names of politicians because I think we're all programmed to be triggered. And I don't want you triggered. I want you chill and thinking and feeling and relating. So the point of these panels, these hearings, is not to find anything out. It's so that each politician can go in with the soundbite that they would like to have turned into a headline and have a chance to say it in a very angry voice. How dare you? Where is the... And have that soundbite turned into a headline and have that headline replicated across the media, in the newspaper, in clips, in video clips, in audio clips, to have it like reverberate out through the consciousness so that they can attempt to, as they say, control the narrative. So that people who aren't paying attention, which is most people, because honestly, who wants to pay attention to this nonsense? The only reverberation that reaches them is seeing one of these headlines, and that drops in and that becomes the truth about that topic for that person. But here's the thing. Even if they succeeded in doing that, which they have, that's, just take a spin through the headlines in America the last 7 days. They have succeeded in dominating those headlines. But what they don't realize is that we're all here in the underground, like underneath the media, doing our own thing and talking to each other and listening to each other. And that one person who feels the truth in their body, who feels connected to a greater sense, to that expansive approach that I was talking about earlier, one person who feels fully engaged in that and fully resonant with that cancels out like a million people who just saw a headline and think a certain thing. So they can delete the Quantum Biology podcast off of YouTube and they can fill the New York Times with headlines about how I won't go there. Right. But I think was one of the cable news channels called mitochondrial dysfunction a fad. It's just a health trend. It's just those dumb biohacking bros on the internet talking nonsense, right? Like they can do all of that, but they can't stop us from living the reality of what we're finding out. And they can't stop us from talking to each other. And they can't stop us from entangling with each other. And they can't stop our energy from rippling out and changing everything and shifting the paradigm right under their noses. As much as I disliked receiving an email telling me that I was a crypto scamming pornographer hate speech person, as much as I dislike that, at the end of the day, I just kind of have to laugh because it doesn't really matter. It just doesn't. As long as we're all still here and we all still talk to each other and we all still keep moving forward and try and uncover new things and fill out a more complete picture, we're expanding consciousness. And you cannot stop that with corporate censorship. And you cannot stop that with, fake hearings, with fake politicians yelling fake things. I think to a certain extent policy matters, but even still, we get to choose how we want to live. We get to choose to engage with frameworks that stabilize us, right? And quantum biology is a stabilizing framework. It is a concept that when we interact with it, it provides us with a way to navigate reality and beyond reality, probably, without falling apart because nothing is what we thought. And it's really, really important to have those stabilizing frameworks. I'm just using this as one example, which is why I think it matters so much. So quantum biology is a framework that has room for everything. It has room for materialist science. It just goes deeper. It has room for, I'll just call it woo, all of the things that we know are real, but you know what I mean when I say woo. It has room for everything. And it is just, I think, a stepping stone for us to start to understand we're truly at the beginning of the beginning. And at the end of the day, these things, quantum physics, quantum mechanics, this, that, like they're all just labels and words that we've made up to create a roadmap to understand who we truly are. That's all. That's it. But we need that because we're human. It's important. And it's important to feel that you can participate. You are valid and you matter. And your choice to interact and engage with these concepts matter. And you don't need to be afraid and scared off by the science, right? If I was scared off by the science, I would never have done a single one of these things. But I felt something deeper, something more important than my fear of looking stupid because I don't know about weak magnetic forces or whatever. And I'm now realizing that something deeper was that we need this stabilizing framework. We need it badly. We need to hear about it anyway. We need to keep talking about it, and we need to make it a thing. And I would add to that, we need to just even think about the concept of stabilizing frameworks in our lives, because there are lots. A job is a stabilizing framework. A marriage is a stabilizing framework. A 12-step recovery program. If you're an addict or an alcoholic and you just are, that idea of like, I have no framework to process life without drugs or alcohol, you go to a 12-step meeting, they give you a framework for that. Plus, you're there in person with other people, and you're now quantum entangled with the energy level of sobriety instead of the energy level of alcoholism. But that itself is a stabilizing framework, and we're going to need those, and we can interact in those. It doesn't matter. I'm involved in lots of stabilizing frameworks with people who have no idea about any of this stuff, who would probably think I was crazy, and I'm always like, I hope they don't Google me. But I need that. I need to be anchored into the community in which I live, and it's not filled with woo people. So, oh well, we can all figure it out. Yes. I guess my question to you is to think about what the stabilizing frameworks in your life are, what they mean to you, how much you trust yourself, how much you trust your own discernment. I have an interview coming up with someone I really, really respect on that topic, and I'm going to be really excited to share it with you. And how grateful can we be that some renegade scientists decided to get together and blow up their silos and create this offering for us, which is the concept of the intersection of biology and quantum physics. And who knows what else might get rolled up in there in the coming weeks and months and years as we continue to unravel all of this. Quantum biology has brought together seemingly incompatible modes of knowing to create a new way of knowing. That's at its foundation what its great gift is. Not necessarily figuring out all of the data, although that's important, and there's lots of fun stuff happening around that, which I'm looking forward to sharing with you as well. But the promise of true coherence, the promise of having the option to engage in that coherence in a way that allows us to make sense of the world, to transcend the world, and to be grateful to be in it. This is a wild ride. We are here for a wild ride. If you are currently incarnated, wow, I don't know. On the one hand, I'm like, what were we thinking? On the other hand, I'm like, this is the greatest ride of all time. I so appreciate you all being here and supporting this work and being curious about it and caring about it. If you would like to see the video versions of this podcast, they will no longer be available on YouTube. They will be available on Spotify video. They will be available on Rumble. If you're a Rumbler, go look us up. And possibly, I'm still looking into this, but I'm very impressed with their pledge to legally defend edgy creators, possibly as well as Substack. So that's my update. I hope you're all well. Wishing you light and darkness and everything in between. Thank you. This has been the Quantum Biology Collective podcast. To find a practitioner who practices from this point of view, visit our directory at quantumbiologycollective.org. If you are a practitioner, definitely take a look at the Applied Quantum Biology Certification, a 6-week study of the science of the new human health paradigm and its practical application with your patients and clients. We also love to feature graduates of the program on this very podcast. Until next time, the QBC.